Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, meathead. And remember, he's the one that said, he's not successful because of me. He's successful because in spite of me. When you have one goal for our son, Danny, that's to keep him alive till he reaches the age of reason. We don't know if that's going to be 20, 30, 40, or ever. And I don't have to go to any of those. I never had to go anywhere, so now I just don't go. I used to get, 30 years ago, I used to get like 400 or 500 Christmas cards. Literally 400 or 500. This year I got 4. I don't count those ones. I don't even open the ones, they send you an email with, and I don't even count those. I'm talking about handwritten, Simon he's closed those 2 big deals. He's up about 15 million now. He can't stand healthcare. He can't wait to exit. Questions about Simon. Now, I mean, I told him, you're taking a big risk because everybody in your extended family's coming to this fucking thing now. He doesn't pay for them. He makes them pay for him. Go out and get a loan. His 17-year-old sister sat right there. And she said that, they're not used to making students loans for, 30,000 euros or whatever it cost her. And I said, is he like him? He's much worse in person. He treats us like shit. I mean, he treats the family like shit. He treats our parents like shit. He won't tell. But he's been like this before he ever met you. So there are other people like me. There are. Not many, but a few. She is rolling up fitness centers, gymnasium and shit like that. And her brother, slightly older brother, who resigned as a policeman, is rolling up assisted living. His other brother and his fiancée are rolling up assisted living. And when their parents get back from their worldwide tour cruise, I don't know what they're going to roll up. But the rest of the family think that he's stupid. He's the dumb one in the family, who's now rich. So they figure that they ought to make multiples of what he makes because he's the short straw. And that's how they talk about him. No respect, no love, no admiration, all the things you fake. Questions, comments about Simon? Yes, sir.
Well, he's an inspiration as of but my question is, what he was doing before QLA?
He was a health manager at a hospital, senior health manager. He has actually degrees in health management and stuff like that. So he comes from the industry, and he picked healthcare because it would be the easiest for him to transition into, not because he likes it, because he's certainly not passionate about it.
And what's the industry that he wants to pivot, and what's the reason?
Because he hates healthcare. He says that it's, in short, he says healthcare, doctors are overrated because they're not that bright, which I could have told him that 50 years ago. And the hospital administrators are the guys that actually have degrees in hospital administration are the smart guys and gals, which I could have told him that 50 years ago too, because I bought hospitals. But he didn't want, he knew he could do it quickest and exit in a couple, 2-3 years and walk away with some tens of millions, and then he's going to roll up something that he likes, which he doesn't like anything. He doesn't like anybody. He's got no personal contacts. He's a young curmudgeon. He's a young, bitter curmudgeon. Curmudgeon is like a bitter old man, but he's not old. but he is. And that's just his personality. Not everybody's, weak like a flabby vagina. I mean, guys, there's a whole other world out there you don't know anything about. As I said the first day, kids come through here, never been spanked, never been reprimanded, never been screamed at, never been this, never been that. And, and I say, how's your program worked out? And it hasn't. Now, if you just stay in your little bubble wrap life, you don't know any different. That's great. But once you've been here for even a day and a half, you realize there's a whole other world. I don't have guns to these guys' heads. I'm not making them come here on their own money to say this is like taking candy from a baby and shooting fish in a barrel. They're doing it out of gratitude. And even though nobody's saying it's easy, but it's the only game in town if you have no money. It just is. That's the only game in town. Anything else about Simon? Yes, sir, in the back.
When did he hire the general manager? Like after the first acquisition?
After his third acquisition. He probably could have waited till the fifth or sixth acquisition, but he doesn't like to interface with people, And as he said, with no coaching from me, he says, I talk to people more like Mr. Peña now, everybody. In his first video, which we didn't show, his first video said, the mistake I made is because a little small village that I'm from in Germany, bankers were considered high up the food chain. The bank manager was high up the food chain. And so I learned to revere them, and I was too soft on them, too easy on them. And that cost me time and money, not dissimilar to Gabriel's first 14 deals that he lost. And, I was raised, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. Respect your elders. Open doors for not old ladies, but females. A couple other things, I forget now. And to this day, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I still call, even though I'm the senior guy here, because that's how I was raised. If I didn't say yes, sir, or I didn't hold the door open, my dad had knocked me from here to the fucking bar. He didn't say, be a good boy, Danny. No. Boom! When he'd come from, when my mother wanted me to do something, so Danny, just tell me definitively, you're not doing this. No, I have no intention of doing it, Mom. I'm going to get your dad involved. Ooh, fuck. Oh, Mom. You don't like keep seeing him hit me, do you? And if that didn't work, okay, Mom, what do you want me to do again? Can you write it down on a piece of paper? If I got in trouble with the nuns or the priests, and my dad came home 5 weeks later, he beat me again. I used to get 2 to 4 beatings for the same event. 2 to 4. The difference between the 2 and 4 is because my mother didn't like a couple of the nuns because she thought they were too strict on me. So sometimes she would shade that information a little. But if the priest fucking said it, I was dead meat. Because in our little hierarchy of the body, the priest was top dog. Now, we didn't know a bishop at the time, but that bishop would have been a topper dog. And so, I'll do whatever you say, Mom. I was scared to death of my dad for a long, long time. Scared to death. I've told you this before. He went to police. They didn't define it as battle fatigue for policemen. But he had been in the 2 wars. He had battle fatigue from that. He had violent nightmares until he was 90. When he was 88, he tried to kill his doctor at Eisenhower Medical. Sound familiar? Tried to kill his doctor. I had to come fly in to Palm Springs and talk him, say, Dad, because unfortunately, the doctor was Filipino. That's enough looking like Japanese. My dad remembers the Japanese, Second World War, all the bad shit. So he tried to kill him. He woke up from a nightmare. And so the hospitals don't have to keep you. And so I said, Dad, you're going to be out in the fucking street. And so, and that's just the way he was. So he just was a terror till he was really old. He tried to beat a guy to death in a golf tournament when he was 75-ish. I mean, he was rough. He was rough. And I'm kind of a worn down him. But he held me accountable. I wouldn't be here. I mean, he held me accountable. If I said I was going to do something, I better fucking do it. Or I better be dead trying to do it. How many times have you told somebody you're going to do something when you're really in the back of your mind, well, if it's convenient, if I have time, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. Most of the time. When I only did this once, I never do it again. I helped a guy have his son get a job when he got out of university. A long, long, long time ago. And I wish I hadn't, because it was, not just because it was more difficult than I thought it was going to be, but I felt obligated. I told the guy, he's got a job after the holidays. Don't worry about it. And he did have a job after the holidays. It was a lot tougher to get that kid, that little shit. He had a job after the holidays, and the kid doesn't know anything about it. He thinks that, Allah gave him the job. What else about Simon? Yes, sir.
Did Simon have this rough personality before QLA? Or he built it later?
Could you say that again, please?
Like this kind of rough personality.
Personality?
Yeah, he showed on the video.
But he had this kind of personality before I ever met him. He got rougher now because he realizes how far you can push people. You don't know how far you can push them. Back in the day, Teddy Roosevelt, a president from about 120 years ago in America, developed a mantra. He used a carrot and stick. And the carrot was, you're trying to be nice to him. Stick is you're obviously not being nice to him. And he developed a political atmosphere around American politics about late 1800s, early 1900s, when he was president of the United States. But he came from a wealthy family, and not dissimilar to Winston Churchill, came from a wealthy family, and they were both, President Roosevelt and Winston Churchill were wusses, pussies, scaredy cats, babies, afraid of their own shadow. And they've both written about this extensively. But you can make yourself not a pussy. That's one of the things in your weekly report, which most of you won't do. What'd you do to scare yourself? And I don't mean ask some flat-chested bitch out for a cup of coffee that you've been running next to for 3 fucking years. You ought to kill yourself. Now if you ask it, I want you to blow me here while you're on the treadmill. Now that's a risk worth taking. And I have guys, unfortunately, I'm not recommending you do this, have gone to jail for doing exactly what I just said. Hey, sweetheart, I like blonde hair. Come here a minute. I'm not suggesting you do that in any way, shape, manner, or form. But I've got kids doing it. I got a kid arrested for stalking one of the big billionaires because the billionaire wouldn't see him. And finally got arrested. That hasn't happened once, twice, several times. Because that's what I used to do. It's a different era and you're not me. I've been arrested, but certainly not because I was stalking some woman because I wanted to sleep with her. I've been arrested certainly not for wanting an appointment with Costa Grazia. I can't even fantasize. The worst nightmare I ever had, I mean, isn't that bad. That doesn't happen to me. It'll happen to you the first time you try it. And you won't do well in prison, sweet pea. So getting back to Theodore Roosevelt and Winston Churchill, they decided they had to make themselves tough. So Roosevelt started boxing at Harvard, as I see the ring in between the curtains there. And he was a lightweight, like 150, 60 pounds, and he would box heavyweights. And I box a lightweight because the lightweights are quicker, and so it makes my reflexes have to be quicker. And so he did a lot of things. And when he went to war with Spain over Cuba, and they had and he led the charge up San Juan, and he had 80 bullet holes in his boots, in his saddle, in the big plumed hat that he wore, in his coat, in his breeches. 80 bullet holes. But none touched him and drew blood. He's a national hero. And then he was a crazy fucker after that. Churchill, not dissimilar. He only had 15 bullet holes. If it's not your time, it's not your time. What did you do today to scare yourself? For some of you that are going to step in that ring today, you can count that as scare yourself. Because there's nobody, unless you were lying about your background, there's nobody in this room that is prepared for what's going to happen in about 2 hours. And I did that every day. Not once a year because I attended some psychopath seminar. Every day I pressed the envelope. Now it's hard for me to get uncomfortable. But going up in space with Sally ought to do it. Other questions about Simon? Okay, thank you, Kat.